Hi, this is Mashnu, and I would like to show you a game that I played yesterday evening. I must warn you, it's a bit of a strange game. It's well, actually, there are some moments when I made some strange decisions on purpose, actually to practice a different style of chess. You know, normally I play quite positional and solid chess, and now I got the chance to, well, complicate things, and it worked out very well. So let me show you this game. I was playing black here, and my opponent played d4, I played knight f6, and we got the Benoni defense, e6, knight c3, e takes d5, c takes d5, d6 and e4, all well-known moves in the modern Benoni. G6, and here white can choose to play either f4 or knight f3. Those are the two most popular moves, and my opponent chose to play knight f3. I went bishop to g7, now h3, which is an interesting move because it with h3 white makes it difficult for black to develop this bishop. On c8, this bishop is often, if white doesn't play h3, it goes to g4 to pin this knight on f3. So, well, it's still a theoretical line. Castle kingside, bishop to d3, preparing to castle kingside. Here it is already possible to play b5, but I played rook to e1 first. Actually, the most common move is b5 here, and if white takes on b5, let's say knight takes b5, then rook to e8, putting more pressure on e4, and if the knight goes back to c3 to defend, then still we can take here because we have a pin on the king, the white king. So knight takes e4, then f5 wins the piece back. But let's return to the game, because I didn't play b5, I played rook to e8, castle kingside, and here two, well, possible moves. c4 is one of them, and knight to a6 is the other well-known move, and I chose for that one, knight to a6. c4 is also possible to, well, if white takes on c4, then e4 falls. So after c4, it's also possible for white to play bishop to c2. And, well, the nice thing is that this square c5 then becomes available for a knight, so knight d7, knight c5 is possible. But, well, let's return to the game, because I played knight to a6. The idea of knight to a6 is to bring the knight later to c7, where it supports eventually the advance of the b pawn. Now here my opponent played bishop to f4. I played knight to c7. We are still in the theory. Rook to e1, and now something interesting happened, because I had played against this opponent about a year ago with black, and we had reached this precise position. He had looked at that game, of course, and a year ago I played in this position the move b5, and after this game, when we were having a drink and analyzing the game, he told me that he had prepared and expected that I would play b5 here, and his plan was to play the surprising move bishop takes d6. If queen takes d6, then e5 follows, and now if the queen goes away, let's say, for example, queen to b6, then d6 is very strong, both knights hanging, and this becomes really strong for white. So a very good preparation on his side. I didn't play b5 this time. I decided to go another way to surprise him, and I played the move knight to h5. this is the beginning of a strange plan. What I want to do is to attack on the king side. He plays bishop to h2, expected move, and now I would like very much to play queen to f6. Actually, this would be such a nice idea, to play queen to f6 and then after this bring my knight to f4. But unfortunately, queen to f6 doesn't work quite well because e5 is annoying for black. It attacks my queen, and if I take this pawn, then he takes with the bishop, and then the bishop is again very active. So I didn't like this. So what I did, instead of queen to f6, I still wanted to play knight to f4 later, so I prepared it with the odd looking move g5. Looks very, very strange, but I think this is playable. I mean, this is where we leave completely the known paths and we have to start thinking for ourselves and try to be creative. So this is one of those moves that are not according to my style of playing. Normally I would never do something like this because it looks so crazy. But well, now I was in the mood to look for trouble and see what happens. He played knight to d2 now. My knight on h5 is under attack. I played knight to f4. He took, I took back. So the result of this crazy idea is that my pawn structure on the king side is completely ruined, but I do have control over the dark squares. And I have possibilities of attacking over the g file. Eventually queen to g5, bishop takes h3 threats, or queen to h4, or perhaps lifting the rook to e5 and g5. These are possible plans, ideas that can be played. Also king to h8, rook to g8 is, well, perhaps a bit slower. The game continued with queen to h5 now, and I think this is a mistake, queen to h5. I think it would have been better to play knight to f3 here for him, but it looks perhaps a bit strange to go back with the knight, because it looks as if you are admitting that it was a mistake to bring it to d2. But the knight on f3 actually controls these important dark squares, and that's a good thing, because it's more difficult than for black to start an attack. I think I would have played here queen to f6 and try to build up some kind of attack there. But anyway, in the game he played queen to h5, so that gave me the option of bringing, with a win of a tempo, with rook to e5, my rook into play. Now he went with the queen to f3, and I continued with rook to g5. I doubted here whether to play queen to h4 or rook to g5. I thought both moves are good, but I chose for rook to g5. And now things start getting more alive for the attack, because I have ideas like, for example, bishop e5 is one of them. Another one is bishop to d4, pinning this pawn, so then rook to g3 becomes a threat. Other ideas are, for example, well, perhaps queen to f6 and queen to g6 to put pressure on g2, or perhaps bringing even the queen from f6 to h6. Another idea is to just move this bishop a bit away to make space for, after the queen moves, then the rook to bring it to the g file. So I have two rooks on the g file. So enough ingredients for active play for black. Now white played the move e5. My opponent thought for quite a long time about this move, and when I saw it I thought, alright, this looks good for him, because he makes this square e4 available for one of his knights. But that's actually not that dangerous. I played bishop takes e5 with the idea that then my pawn is well defended. And oh, by the way, just one move back, here taking on f4 is not a good idea, because I take on h3. this pawn is pinned. So let's go back. So he played e5, bishop takes e5, knight d to e4. This is probably the wrong knight going to e4 we discovered in the post-mortem analysis. So that's well, if you don't know, post-mortem is called the analysis after the game. It's a beautiful word. Post-mortem is Latin for after death. Okay, so after the game died. So knight d to e4, rook to g7, rook a to d1, activating his least active piece. But now comes really some momentum in the attack with queen to h4. I threaten now bishop takes h3, and to avoid this threat the king must move out of the g file, so the g2 pawn is not longer pinned. And he played the most natural move here, actually, king to h1. But this is a very, very, very serious mistake, a tactical mistake, because now comes a very, very strong move, bishop to g4, and boom, everything's over. White is lost here. The queen cannot escape unless white sacrifices a piece with knight to f6. And that's what he did in the game. I mean, actually, in this position, white could resign because it's completely lost. But, well, people tend to play just a few moves further, mostly for two reasons. One of them is to see if there is any way to save the game, and the other one is that sometimes just players need a few more moves to psychologically accept the fact that the game is over. So knight f6 check was played. Bishop takes f6, queen takes f4, and now bishop takes d1. So I'm winning material. He took now on d6, and I took on f2, threatening checkmate on g2, threatening to take the rook on e1. So there is only one move for him. Well, actually two. He played rook to g1, but it's lost anyway, actually. And here I thought about two moves. Bishop f3 looked very nice, and bishop d4 looks also winning. So I played bishop d4, threatening mate on g1, and he resigned here. So it's completely over now. If well, if you would play queen to h2 now to defend g1, then still I'm completely winning. Perhaps the easiest way to win is simply to take the rook here. Queen takes g1, but also beautiful things like this might be possible. White doesn't have any counterplay and is down so much material, so it's lost. Let's return to the position before bishop g4. So here he had played king to h1, and after the game I told him why not king to f1, and we actually came to the conclusion that this would have been better, but still black has a better position here. I can simply play bishop to d7 now, preparing to bring my pieces into play, my rook to e8, for example, and I have all my pieces are very active, so I think this is just a good position for black. Let's say he plays something like knight to d2 to put some pressure on f4. Now I would continue with king to h8, followed by rook a to g8, and have pressure against this pawn. The problem for white is that it's quite difficult to advance this pawn, because then h3 falls, and he must also be very careful about tactical threats of sacrifices on h3 or on g2 and all those type of attacking plans. But I think that the easiest way for black to attack is to prepare the attack by bringing more pieces into this g file. So then the game could have lasted longer, but it's still good for black. But in the game, king h1, and I had the pleasure to play this nice move, bishop to g4. Alright, I hope that you liked this example, and well, I enjoyed very much playing this game, actually, to play a completely different style than I normally do. And well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I see you next time on YouTube. Goodbye.